I'm going to try my best to keep this short. Many of you will be aware of um, the plans by Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, to bring in digital ID. Now, this is all under the pretense of preventing illegal immigration. Of course, these people already have access to IDs, and they're able to work illegally for sort of like food delivery companies by sharing existing IDs and pretending to be whoever. So the idea that this has got anything to do with immigration at all just seems utterly ridiculous. They're not going to be secure, these new IDs. In some countries where people have touted these as unbreakable and unhackable, people have already actually managed to duplicate them and pretend to be other people. So as far as encryption and security and the ability to duplicate these things, that is a long way off being successful. So I'd imagine if, as planned, this is rolled out and forced on the British public, there will be all kinds of problems with criminality and identity theft, and possibly, not just identity theft, but the actual stealing of people's assets, because, of course, this is going to be linked to digital wallet. The concept of a digital wallet has already been created in Europe and Britain and various other places. In America, they've said they're not going to have central bank digital currencies as such, but what they will have is some kind of stable coin type arrangement, which is similar to Bitcoin, although it will not be completely private. It will be managed by the US government to some extent, although it will probably be implemented by private companies. So the seeds of all this go back quite a long way. If you are familiar with the World Economic Forum, you will know about their plans from Klaus Schwab's book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, of creating a worldwide digital governance apparatus, which includes the two key pillars of digital ID, which would be universal, and a digital wallet, which would also be universal. The key thing about these two items is they enable you not only to be tracked, but to be entirely controlled, because not only will they be able to restrict your physical access to areas through the digital ID, they'll be able to restrict your access to freedom through the digital wallet, so by restricting your ability to spend your own money. And they may even have the ability to either steal your money or to sort of just turn your money off altogether, or just disappear it, to make it expire. By putting an expiration date, say of tomorrow, if you've upset the Prime Minister by calling him something rather nasty, they just set your money to expire tomorrow or something like that as punishment, which they will very easily be able to do. At the moment, we do have a digital banking system, but there is always the option of taking your money out as cash and transferring your money from one place to another, or spending it on physical assets without any intervention by the governments. There are limits on transfers to other countries, which is I think about 5,000 in most European countries, €5,000. And also cash is restricted in how much you can take out in one go. Cash machines are restricted to either 1,000 or 1,500 euros. And if you go into a bank and ask to take out, say, 50,000, if you've got that much money, they'll want to know what you want it for. And you could just say, well, I'm going to buy a car or whatever, and they can't really argue with you. So, they don't actually have the right to stop you. But the trouble is, when it all goes digital, the government will afford itself the right to intervene under some kind of notional idea like the Terrorism Act or some other rubbish, and then just basically tell you can't do what you want, you have to do what they want. So the plans for this go back a long way. Tony Blair tried to implement a digital ID card, which would also have a physical card, sort of like a driving license. But of course, that would just be a duplicate of what your digital ID is. He failed miserably, and Tony Blair is actually behind this in the UK. He's set up a Quango, which is one of the best funded, I think about 150 million worth of funding in pounds, that is. And it looks like his son will be involved in the actual rollout of this technology. How convenient that his son is actually sort of an expert in this area. How lucky that is. Amazing. What amazing fortune for the Blair family. It wouldn't be anything to do with corruption, of course. No, couldn't that wouldn't be possible. That not in the slightest, of course. And if you look to Europe, various people who might be involved in Ursula von der Leyen's life might have connections with some of the plans that she wants to roll out, which, of course, that wouldn't be corrupt either. That wouldn't have anything to do with sort of nepotism. Of course it wouldn't. No, that wouldn't be possible either. And so you could look across the pond to America with various plans about sort of stable coins and what have you, and crypto. And of course, that wouldn't have anything to do with anybody's family members, people who might be, brother-in-laws or sons-in-laws, etc., to the current president, Mr. Trump. No, that wouldn't be possible either. So, I mean, if you look at it all across the world, these plans could be rolled out. And of course, there is a vague possibility, just pure coincidence, of course, that some of the people involved in the rollout of digital ID, in AI and some digital wallets might be somehow connected to members of the government. Of course, that's just all pure coincidence. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's just dumb luck, isn't it? Of course, And, if you have the mind to say, it'll probably be okay, well, just look at the Chinese model. The Chinese model that has already been rolled out is very effective. So, you have facial recognition, you have ID on your phone, you have a sort of full digital portfolio on you. And there's various examples of political dissidents who have been effectively sort of trapped in their home, unable to go out shopping, unable to drive a car, unable to catch a train, unable to do anything much. And, of course, people who communicate with this person also see their social credit score dropping for having sort of associated with this sort of pariah of a person. So, of course, they're largely shunned by most of society because people are afraid that if they speak to this heretic or dissident, that they'll also be tarred with the same brush and suffer the consequences too. So this is the sort of Orwellian, Huxleyan nightmare that has been talked about and, envisioned by people like Philip K. Dick as well, and various others. So it looks like they're actually really trying to do it. They're really, really actually going to try and roll this out for real this time. And, we can just sit here and take it, or we can decide that we're not going to take it. So what's going to happen over the next few months probably is there will probably be another war. It looks like there could be war in the Middle East, escalation of the war in Ukraine, possibly a war in Venezuela, possibly a war around Taiwan. So, one of these scenarios could be a big distraction from very quietly ushering digital ID and a digital wallet. So, the most likely scenario looks to me to be the Middle East that will really go off like a powder keg. Although some of these other theatres of war could also kick off. It's the usual technique of distraction. And so while we're all focusing on the horrors of death and war and people possibly being conscripted and etc., they'll just sort of, for our safety, for our security, for our benefit, always for our own benefit, of course, that they're going to implement these policies. effectively it will usher in a new age of totalitarianism, a digital dictatorship, an absolute tyranny. And really, I mean, so many people are aware of this now, but the question is, what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? Are we going to sit here and take this? Or are we going to do something not just to show our displeasure, but to convince these people that it's not in their interest to do so? Because I think unless we actually start taking action of some kind, that is what they are going to implement, and they will effectively have created a digital gulag, a digital prison for the entire world. And I'm not talking about years away, I'm talking about by next year, by 2026, this probably will be implemented in Britain, maybe several other countries, and it will possibly be rolled out all across the world. And these systems will be interconnecting, of course, and that will be the end of any notion of freedom, unless you're prepared to live completely outside of the system, and be prepared to live without access to banks, without access to shops, etc., without access to the internet. So this is all coming, and coming very, very soon if we don't actually make a stand against it. So I think it's time that we stop just talking about these things and think, oh dear, this looks bad. I think it's time people organised and began to take action to prevent the undemocratic and, frankly, evil and heinous plans being unrolled and implemented all across this planet, which is basically what we're looking at. It's something people have been talking about for years and discussing ad infinitum, but now it's actually here. The time has come. It is now. This is actually happening, and it's happening right under our noses right now. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do. And if you like what I have to say, please like my video. I'm very often shadow banned, so I'd appreciate you sharing this video to your friends, family, etc. And if you're not subscribed already, please do subscribe. It helps me to grow my channel and spread the word. As I said, the algorithm doesn't like me or what I have to say, so I'd appreciate any help with getting the message out there. Okay, that's it for now. Bye-bye.